The entire Zcash core dev team just left? What does that even mean? How is Zcash now 28% in the last 24 hours? How does that even happen? Why did I put my money in privacy Bitcoin? Mert, you bald idiot! Why did you convince me to buy this shit? I sold my Solana for this! Are you kidding me? I will never, ever buy Zcash again! This is such bullshit! I thought it was going to $10,000! I'm such an idiot!
Good times, good times. I figured it's a fun way to start the show, right? That guy does great videos. That's the second one I've seen of him. He's
I think he's had like
plant in the corner, man.
He's got a few.
He mad.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he didn't actually buy Zcash.
I don't know. I assumed that, but then I saw that broken plant in the corner, and I don't know. He may have thrown that, gotten really upset.
Oh.
He is right, though. I mean, why would you? Like, I sold all my Solana. I'm not trying to compare all the shit coins, but my gosh, like, for people to get lucky with one cryptocurrency, and then guess what? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to roll it over to this thing that was flat, and then buy it at the with no support in those middle areas. I mean, I remember when it shot up, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going for sure back down to 300. And guess what? All those people who were bought Zcash and 1000x, they're going to cycle into Bitcoin, and it's just par for the course. So we're sitting pretty here.
The governments and institutions are really excited about your personal privacy on the blockchain, right? So Zcash. These guys are hilarious. Anyways, yeah, we're gonna be talking about a whole bunch of funny stuff and a whole bunch of drama. That's right, guys. It is Bitcoin Tonight, the 6th episode of Bitcoin Tonight. So we're gonna take a look at the Buck token. We're gonna take a look at another major institution ETF. That's right. Bitcoin custodial layer discussion. I don't know if we're going to be doing any of that. Some 2026 bullish predictions. I believe we're going to be starting off with that, or definitely doing that in the beginning. We're going to be taking a look at the bull case for Bitcoin once again. And of course, everybody's talking about the Saylor stuff. So we're going to talk about the Saylor stuff. I watched the whole episode begrudgingly, and then felt that Rhino Bitcoin amazingly summarized it in an awesome little clip, which we will show. Anyways, before we dive into all that fun stuff, you guys know the deal. Going to give a shout out to the Pleb Underground sponsor, Archimedes Emporium. We're back in 30 seconds. Let's freaking go.
Pleb Underground is sponsored by Archimedes Emporium. Discover the pinnacle of precision engineering, starting with their Bitcoin logo wall clock, meticulously machined in Maine from a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminum, ensuring unparalleled durability and performance. Experience the difference of a product made without compromise. Head on over to Archimedes Emporium.
Guys, I don't like this bull cycle or 25, 26, whatever have you. It's like we haven't learned. And guess what? Just like those people doubled down, rolled over their crypto gains to Zcash, our super influencers roll over their horrible projections to even worse ones. And guess what? It ends up being satire. Samson Mao, $1 million Bitcoin isn't enough. He says 1.3 million. He says Omega Candle, at least one country launches a Bitcoin bond. Elon Musk goes hard. What are we in 2021 now? I don't understand. MicroStrategy, that's a dead duck, but I guess it's going to 5,000. Hey, for the diamond hand MicroStrategy holders over here, I hope he's right, but no. And Bitcoin outperforms metal. If anything, that could be the one. I would say that should be the one that should pass the test. But honestly, you see the likes here, you see the bookmarks, but people keep on tuning in for junk. Bitcoiners seem to be the laughing stock of the entire financial realm. What have you, Humble?
We love predictions, don't we? We really do. Yeah. We love it when somebody else has like a little globe that they're looking into and saying, this is what's going to happen in the year 2026. So, yeah,
Yeah, He needs to
Unless
return that
you want my crystal ball, because my crystal ball is, yeah, I mean, you guys know what it is, right? You want to hear my
I was going to
prediction?
call you out on that.
Right?
I'm like, can you? I need some foundations. You can't just be the anti-Samson Mao with just throw things in the air. I want to see evidence.
Yes.
Girl. I want to see.
It's it's the prayers, right? It's like you're praying for number go up and I'm praying for number go down just for a period of time. And then we'll be on the same page and we'll both be saying number go up. Yeah.
Phil, are you tired of Samson saying this kind of stuff, or is this just par for the course? Are we going to deal with this forever?
Yeah, we're definitely, I mean, look, in the near term, we're 100% going to deal with this. I mean, I've been seeing this now for several years. And I mean, I haven't seen one of these predictions actually happen. It just reminds me, as you were going through the list, I couldn't help but picture the Dave Chappelle meme, right? With him as a junkie, and got any more of that $5,000 MSTR, even though it never existed, or how about some of that $1.3 million Bitcoin?
Wait, you got to do the whole thing. It's a hell of a job, right? Yeah.
My question is, what happened to people valuing people that are right? Or that are somewhat right. Hey, I think Bitcoin's going to go to 150 this year. And if it goes to 140, it's like, it's not fun. But like the problem is that the people who are you really trying to bring in new people? Or are you just trying to cater to the hopium and dreams of the people who are already here? I mean, I guess my thing is, if you're close to being right, people start tuning in. It's like, that person's been right 3 years in a row, or for 8 years. I should start listening to them. Oh, wow, that Bitcoin thing. But I don't think these super influencers care.
Does it really matter if Elon goes hard into Bitcoin? Like, who cares?
Because he has a bunch of, worshipers, just like Samson has, just like Michael Saylor has, or Max Kaiser. They think that he'll bring the boys to the yard, to quote Khalees. I love quoting Khalees. It's a good song.
The only person that's right is the person that has the post that says, I predict that Bitcoin is going to go up and I think it's going to go down, and then it's going to go up and then it's going to go down. Those are the only ones that are actually right, but they're no fun and they don't get any engagement, and there's no clickbait post for that.
No, because people want to imagine that somebody else knows. And not only does this person have specialized knowledge of what's going to happen, but at the same time, it confirms your bias. So, number one, the person has specialized knowledge. Number two, you're a fucking genius.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, this is great. This is exactly what I needed today, So.
I know. Well, because you imagine yourself like early on, when people thought you were crazy and you really wanted validation for not looking crazy, and you would send stuff like this to them. Be like, look, another prediction, 1.3 million. The last one I sent you was 2.5. All right. And these people know something.
You know how many followers he has? You know how many podcasts he's been on? And look what he thinks.
So maybe, maybe they're doing a job. They're doing a job for some people in the space so that they can forward these posts and get more people involved. It does something. It does do something,
We're not going with that whole net positive shit.
I didn't say it.
No, you did it. I did, but I'm just saying we're not going down that road.
Is this net positive? Is Morgan Stanley's ETF, spot Bitcoin ETF, a net positive? It looks like they filed with the US regulators to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, here's my thing. We've had two, you almost have to call them white swan events, because Bitcoin has been flat. And I mean flat, I was looking at the volatility 2 days ago on Saturday. It was the lowest, I think it was $11 billion not volatility, in volume. $11 billion in trading. That was like the lowest I could look back for at least 2 years. Like, it was dead. So, like, when I see this kind of stuff, the ETF, Trump being elected, ETFs in 24, Trump being elected in 24, that's when Bitcoin went up. Now you hear about Morgan Stanley potentially launching one. Could this be something to trigger another massive buying momentum phase? Phil, I know you're not the biggest fan of ETFs.
No.
We are the pleb underground after all. What do you have to say about Morgan Stanley's ETF filing?
Yeah, so it's one of those situations that if we just take a look at, right, if we look at the big picture, we're seeing retail, like this is retail banking customers. So this is totally different than BlackRock's offering. Of course, it's the typical stuff, right? It's the financialization. Of course, it's this centralized institution buying Bitcoin and selling Bitcoin on behalf of their customers. You know what? Something that's interesting though, because this is a retail bank and they're dealing with retail customers, I'm curious if they're going to have in-kind redemptions. I didn't look into it at all, but right, like for BlackRock, it's these approved participants, right, which are essentially other big institutions. They are allowed to do in-kind redemptions now, right? Like that's already been several months that passed. I wonder if Morgan Stanley is going to do that. That would be kind of interesting to figure out, to get an idea of how many retail customers would want to take custody of Bitcoin after holding, the ETF shares. That would be interesting.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah. Thanks.
Humble.
Every time I see something like this, I just in my mind, I'm thinking, well, oh, are you commenting on the comment? Well, I didn't see it.
I couldn't even hold it.
No,
Laugh. That was pretty funny.
What was it?
Oh, sorry. I'll stop.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine like Two-Face just like
Yeah. Yes, as the guy with the pizza for his profile picture, ACP2.
That was pretty good. Like I completely broke like the fourth wall there or something. That's funny.
All right.
There are no walls here. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it really doesn't move Bitcoin too much when they get in, but let's say they decide they want to get, they want to like speak poorly about Bitcoin and they're involved, right? They've got the ETF now. Like all it takes is these guys all kind of simultaneously saying, oh, we're pulling out. We're done with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a scam. Like, and just boom, like you're going to see, it's not going to die. Bitcoin isn't going to die, but it's just, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like them being involved. I don't like them being involved at all. So, yeah, that's my opinion. It doesn't make me very comfortable because I feel like they have this element of the power of the narrative to shift things if they so choose.
So
Morgan Stanley's part of the big club.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Humble, to your point, Morgan Stanley's part of the big club, right? So, yeah. Case in point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if when we talk about incentives, if they have a product that enables Morgan Stanley to make profit off of the purchases of it. They make a commission, they make a transaction, they get a transaction fee. They would like people to continually be interested, at the very least, interested in moving it back and forth. So if they just say Bitcoin is evil, the devil, it's money for criminals, and you shouldn't touch it, while they've invested so much capital into a product, I would just think that would be going against their incentives. Does Morgan Stanley disincentivize anything that they sell to their customers? Why would Bitcoin be any different? I just feel like they would be now a part of the show to push at least custodial Bitcoin for a specific use case, which is it's like digital gold.
Well, it is different though, because they have no influence to be able to exert, right? To anybody. So, it is different. And so they've got to have a backup plan. And I don't know what that backup plan is. And I want to know what their backup plan is. Like if this, if they feel like they need to shift gears and this is becoming too much of a threat or whatever, like they really need to make it the bad guy, they could very well do that because they don't have control over it.
Yeah.
And they will never have control over it. So they had to have had those conversations. I guess that's all I'm saying is
no, for sure. One thing I could say is that they would have control over their own Bitcoin. Yeah. So if they have to 6102 their own Bitcoin, Morgan Stanley, they could.
Yeah.
And that I think that's why the narrative is so heavy on, custodial Bitcoin is okay, because if it does moon, they got it covered. BlackRock has control over it. Morgan Stanley, Fidelity, those places, you won't just be able to say, oh, I'm a 10 millionaire now, I'm just going to get my stuff and run. It's like, they're like, not so fast, you know, and they could do that, except for the people like us who are custodying our own Bitcoin. Before I go on to the next topic, I want to give a shout out to Coonface. Yo, Ulric, I see you finally got Atlas Shrugged. TK recommended to me, and I finally finished it. I think I mentioned it either last episode or 2 weeks ago, and it was a great novel. I had the audio version. I was listening to it while I was lifting weights or shooting baskets. I recommend it to everyone. And also my coworker, Ira Fell. I think we said this earlier. Ira Fell. Nice. I reminded her today, don't forget to watch my podcast Monday night. And of course, oh, that's TK. That's why he has an alias. Like, I'm sorry you don't have to dox yourself.
He tried to change it. He tried to change it, but it didn't work. He wanted it to show up as TK, but it didn't work. He explained this all like 3 episodes ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I appreciate you recommending it to me, brother. I appreciate it. Okay, next topic. So we've had some stuff, and on the Pleb Underground, you know, we're not just, you know, brainless, you know, Bitcoin go up, you know, we like to talk about the things that impact our world around us. Bitcoin impacts our world in multiple ways, and we've talked about that for years. We see that all the time on Phil's daily show. And so when you think about this stuff that's happening in the world right now, you have Trump invading Venezuela. You have the what would you call it? The daycare in Minnesota, money laundering. You have the Minnesota, what would you call it? We'll say people who, what would you call these people? These people who fight against certain federal forces. I had a term for it. I forgot the term, but you know, things happen in the world, and I have to take a stand against this, what you would say as doomerism, what you would see as doomerism on the internet nowadays. People seem to like the algorithm. People seem to like to trigger the algorithm, talking about the fourth turning here or there. But when I look at these things that are happening, Phil, Humble, I just see par for the course. I can't count how many times a president in a alleged dictatorship gets overtaken by Russia or China or the United States. I can't count on my hand the number of times that someone has been shot by the police, or someone has shot a police officer, or people have shot each other in their own neighborhoods. And I can't count the number of times that we've seen money laundering and corruption in the government. And so when you see all this stuff happening in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and we call it the fourth turning, I just feel that's short-sighted. I feel that people are looking for reasons to fearmonger, for views, for clicks. And if it didn't happen to be a white liberal woman that took on ICE, or you know, that it happened to be United States that was taking on Venezuela, that happens to be one of the countries that has a lot of immigration issues with America, or Minnesota, that's been a hotbed for politics. The losing VP candidate lost there and ends up what do you call it? Resigning his post or not seeking re-election because of the things that have been discovered in his domain. I just feel like people are closed-minded and short-sighted because it's happening to people that look like them, or it's happening a little closer to home. In my opinion, the fourth turning is not happening anytime soon. And if it is, it already happened probably 20, 30 years ago. So that's my monologue. I don't want to go on too far. Have you guys noticed this doomerism on Twitter? What's your Humble, what's your perspective on doomerism on Twitter in general?
Sorry, I was in the middle of responding to someone.
I would say that's
Mars is
term,
canceled.
agitators, right?
I stand with Tim Waltz.
Yeah.
Is that Mars saying that? Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
brother.
I
We
don't
all
have
stand
to.
with
It's fine. I don't
Saylor.
have to type it out now. You're canceled, Mars. That's it.
That's old.
Yep. You can go.
He's a millennial. If he was a
I would
Gen
say
Xer, you know,
activist.
Oh,
That was what I
probably
was trying to
be
find.
talking to him, but you know.
You can go back to your little oh gosh, your I don't even know what to call it. My mind is a little fuzzy right now, but yeah, the Dennis Porter thing that you did was really quite funny. Where's Dennis Porter amidst the agitators? So if you guys haven't seen it, Mars was going through the well, I don't know, riots, protests with the agitators, and he's trying to find Dennis Porter for us, guys. He's putting himself in these really crazy situations, and
Doing what it takes.
yeah. So we should
Doing what
thank
it
him
takes.
for that. No Dennis Porter yet.
Yeah. All right,
boy.
back to the
So,
doomerism. Back to
yeah,
the
how do I feel about that? Like, I mean, so the fourth turning is really heating up. Is that really doomerism? I mean, it is what it is. It's going to happen. I mean, so if we're all a part of this, if you go along with that theory, right? We may be witnessing the end. I mean, you can just look at how many times, and Ulric, you know this, well, I think you do too, Phil. Like, how many times did people think we were in the, I mean, we're in the end times, but how many times did people think like the world was done? Like, oh, that's it. Jesus is coming back. You know, he's coming.
Yes.
It's time, or we're done.
That's right. It
Right?
feels like that kind of stuff, which lends itself to cultism.
Yeah. So, you know, I think there, oh, it is. It's a very disturbing time. It's a very uncertain time. And, you know, we were talking about it a little bit today. Generations, we just all think so differently, you know, and you're seeing the results of programming that has been going on for a very long time. You know, it's like the fruits of the labor of the psyops that have been going on for so many years. I mean, that's what I feel is happening. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to try to predict anything. I think it's good for everybody to take a break from the stuff that's going on, because it's just really awful. It's just really, it's terrible. And we could spend the entire episode just talking about this. So I'm going to shut up now. But yeah.
And Phil, when I get, she said it's awful, but at the same time, we've been dealing with these awful types of things in America, across the border. I mean, across the Atlantic Ocean, across the border. And I understand the fourth turning is focused, at least that book is focused on what's happening in the first world. But I mean, look, I just feel like this is some type of cult that says, hey, everything's gonna die, but if you follow my lead and follow my formula, like, you're gonna make it. And I mean, I saw someone earlier say, you know, Magoo is all about triggering and doomerism sells. What are your thoughts on this, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely Magoo likes to trigger people. There's no question there. And doomerism does sell. However, I do think that there is some nuance, right, between the doomerism and the fourth turning people, and maybe it kind of, that classification itself is incorrect, because they kind of overlap in some way, right? There's kind of like the fourth turning people that essentially we are moving forward, but unfortunately we're going to go through a major upheaval, right? But essentially life gets better. Whereas
in the first turning,
sorry,
in the first turning,
yeah, in the first turning, after this, okay. But then there's the doomerism aspect of everything changes after this for the worse, and it simply stays like this in this kind of period of chaos for a while, right? Like it kind of reminds me of that the takes from some of the people that are, and it's not every gold bug that looks at it that way, but the majority of people that I have seen who cheer for the medals to win, so to speak, overall, for whatever reason, end up having a world in the future where you're using metal for money and everything like that. And they don't really realize what all of those implications really mean.
The internet is dead, right?
Yeah, it's not this like wonderful future of like unicorns and everything is like wonderful and you're just, you know, paying people with silver and gold. No, it's like the freaking dark ages, you know, so to speak, but kind of a more modern version of those dark ages. So I think that there's, you know, and obviously there's even more gray area if we dive into it even further. But look, it gets tons of engagement right now. It gets tons of engagement. You get lots of clicks and views. You get lots of people, the people supporting it. You get the people vehemently against it. And it just creates for a whole lot of attention, right? And it is an attention economy right now. So there you go. You know, this shit sells.
The one thing about the fourth turning is that there's supposed to be a major conflict, but I think that if we are, again, I think the reason why those posts were happening is because we saw the Venezuela and the shooting of the white woman in Minnesota, the activist contending against ICE. But what I do think is that this fourth turning, I think our major conflict is a currency war. And I think that people are trying to figure out what is the next form of world reserve currency. And when you think about all the people that have these big fiefs of power and property to destroy their beachfront property, when World War II is happening, I live in LA, San Pedro and Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach, all that, there was nothing there because, that's war zone. That's where people get potentially invaded on by the Japanese or whatchamacallit, or Normandy. Nowadays beachfront property is everywhere. None of these people with extreme power want to lose their ability to have property on the beach so we can have some World War III. In my opinion, this fourth turning will be a currency war, and it'll be fought in a way that's deceptive, that's electronic, and not this traditional kind of we're in this civil war kind of like traditional hot war that we're used to. So again, that's my prediction. That's probably what the fourth turning will look like from my perspective before we move on to a potential Bitcoin standard. If we go on to the next topic, I think we're going to be talking about something very interesting. We get to hear about hear from someone that loves to hear himself speak. And we're going to have a 2-minute trailer for you, or a 2-minute clip from his interview with Knowles. I forget his first name. Daniel?
Danny Knowles. He's
Knowles,
the host of what Bitcoin did now. All right, here we go.
All right, so you're going to pull it up, Phil? Here we go.
Question more is, though, do you think the market can sustain this many treasury companies? Because we see, especially the smaller ones, almost all of them are now trading at like a significant discount to their
I think you're just missing the point. You're like the Bitcoin community tends to eat its young. Like they would rather criticize a company that buys Bitcoin than criticize a company that doesn't buy Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you focus upon criticizing the money-losing companies that don't own Bitcoin? Why would you buy them? Why aren't you criticizing them?
No, I agree with that. But it's not that I'm criticizing them. It's just that the shareholders in some of these other treasury companies are getting absolutely crushed. And like, is there any way that some of these companies ever get back to like a 1x MNAV?
Yeah, I just don't accept the criticism. You made an investment in a company. Why did you invest in the company, right? My problem with the premise is you somehow think that it's okay for 400 million companies to not buy Bitcoin, and you like that. And you're going to criticize the companies, the 200 companies that bought Bitcoin. And that's the thing, that's your brilliance?
The thing that I would
How is it brilliant for you to ignore the fact that 400 million companies didn't buy Bitcoin, and somehow that's okay, and you're going to criticize the 200 companies that bought Bitcoin?
No, that's not the criticism I'm making. Because like if
you're just criticizing someone that bought an equity at the wrong price, why don't you actually put the focus upon the people that make the investment decision? The companies don't determine the price their stock trades at.
Mm-hmm.
So my point here is, what is your brilliant insight, Danny, that people shouldn't buy Bitcoin? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I think people buying Bitcoin is cool.
Okay, well, if it's okay for Bitcoin, well, what about an unemployed person? You want to criticize them for buying Bitcoin?
Of course not.
Well, what if you have debt? You want to criticize the person with debt for buying Bitcoin?
Of course not.
Well, then why are you criticizing a company for buying Bitcoin?
I mean, I'm not criticizing
If it's a good company that buys Bitcoin, is better. And if it's a bad company that buys Bitcoin, is better than it would have been.
Poor people buying Bitcoin aren't selling shares of themselves to the public.
There's so many ways to cut that one up.
Okay, sorry. Go.
Yeah.
I wrote notes.
Did you really?
Oh,
Yeah, I
good.
have no choice because he said multiple things.
Okay,
Right?
go ahead and start.
Okay, so
Don't criticize him, Phil.
I'm not criticizing him at
Don't.
all. Actually, it has nothing to do with. But that's the point, right? That's the point.
Don't
He's taking
criticize
it
the
personally.
companies.
Okay, but okay, I'm buying Bitcoin. That's it. I'm done. No, but okay. So first of all, the whole thing about Bitcoiners eating their young, right? Like that. So again, being critical about something that can break and talking about how it can break and understanding that it can break, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's called making sure that you understand the environment that you're in to the most of your capability. So for that, I do have to push. I do have to push back because Bitcoiners 100% push back, at least used to push back mostly on stuff that was complete fucking nonsense and garbage. And there's nothing in my eyes, there's nothing wrong with that. And hey, if a person or group is wrongfully critical, then so be it. The truth will speak, and that's it. Right? Like that's it. It was wrongfully critical. Here you go. And this is why it was wrong. The other piece of it was, he said to him, he said, why are you criticizing the companies that are buying Bitcoin over the ones that aren't? So look, the reality is that if you have a business that is cash flow positive and that keeps increasing their earnings, right? And we do have businesses like that out there, right? Companies like Mercado Libre, like Block, and a few others. They're just simply buying and stacking Bitcoin. Right? Like nobody has any problems with that. They're not trying to sell you something because they're hodling Bitcoin. Okay. And they have earnings without hodling Bitcoin. Now, when you take a look at these businesses that do buy Bitcoin, for the most part, they are not solvent. And their only way that they are kicking the can down the road is by issuing shares because they hold Bitcoin, not because their underlying business is strengthening. So it's not about criticizing them because they're buying Bitcoin. That's the wrong, I shouldn't say wrong, it's maybe disingenuous framing. It's about the fact that they aren't maybe also or primarily aren't doing anything to actually sustain their business and bring in more money in order to be able to actually be able to hold on to that Bitcoin instead of constantly kicking their shareholders in the nuts to buy more Bitcoin. I get that right now it seems like it makes sense, but it doesn't actually make any sense when there is no demand for those shares. People don't understand how quickly that changes. Anyways, somebody else.
Humble, go ahead.
I don't know how to follow that.
All right.
No, I'm just glad that I wasn't on the. I'm glad I wasn't on the receiving end of that conversation with Michael. He seemed very upset. Very, very upset.
Poor Danny took one for the did Danny get blocked? I heard
that today.
Is that accurate? Somebody confirm
He
this?
got blocked by Saylor.
Quite possibly, yeah, for asking. And in all fairness, he did not ask difficult. Like these were not questions framing him in a negative light or anything like that. He could have answered these questions easily and totally maintained his cool. And it just fucking fell apart.
Yeah, I think that, what TK said right here is like, he didn't, like Saylor is using, arguments 101, communications 101 to try to divert what the topic was. And he's trying to say that, Michael Saylor's trying to say, look, you're criticizing me because I like Bitcoin. But the criticism is your company is ugly and it's going to fall apart unless you tear someone else apart before yourself. And so therefore you do the fiat formula and no one wants to say, hey, what's the difference between you and a central bank, Michael Saylor? What's the difference between you and a central government? All you're doing is stealing the labor of your networked participants. Every shareholder has had to basically extend your runway when the shareholder is there to expect that you're going to create value. But it's not happening. All you're doing is hoping that Bitcoin goes up, and all the shareholders are doing is hoping that it goes up faster than you dilute them. And it's and all he does is lash out at people trying to hint at the reality of the situation.
Right.
Pleb Underground has been talking about this for at least 12 months. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've been talking about this since before I joined in August of 24. So
as soon as he started issuing shares, without, and I started to look at the actual revenues without their Bitcoin holdings, I was like, okay, I'm like, here we go.
The 21-21 plan kind of started in November, and by the way, same time that all these MicroStrategy super influencers and finance bros started coming around. It just feels like it's a big giant marketing stunt in order to rug people for their money for a pipe dream. And they got a bunch of all-stars. They got a bunch of people that come in and say, and you're supposed to believe what they say because of their stake in the Bitcoin industry and the Bitcoin world. And people are finally starting to not really care who is pumping MicroStrategy up, because the dollars just don't make sense.
So I didn't watch the entire interview, but it seems to me that kind of behavior is a good diversion tactic. If he felt like he was going to get more difficult questions to put Danny in a position where he's uncomfortable and shaken up, and now is second guessing how he should proceed with that interview, right?
That's right. He did it. He's done it before. He did it with the chair argument. Some guy said, like, why would you buy all this Bitcoin? Well, because it's and we all cheered that one on, right? We all cheered on when he says, like, how many chairs do you need? How many different types? Do you need 10 cell phones? No, you only need one. And it's like, it sounds good, right? But guess what? He cuts people off. He jams them up. And then he just yells at him. And by the way, he's a billionaire. He's popular. So if you don't want to be not friends with him, because he'll never come on your podcast again. So it's like, I think,
or even once.
Yeah, I think Danny handled it well. I'm wondering what Peter McCormick would have to say about that. But guess what? I didn't watch the whole thing. But
I wonder what all the podcasters have to say about that. After what happened. Has anyone really commented? I haven't looked around.
People are willing to sell, from what I know, people are willing to sell themselves out for an opportunity. And if they're going to come on if Saylor wants to come on their podcast and he's going to say, yeah, you can't talk about A, B, C, X, Y, Z, they're going to say, okay. Because guess what? Because it's more about the influencer economy than it is about getting this thing right. Bitcoin, in order for Bitcoin to be, in order for us to go to hyper Bitcoinization, we have to call out a bunch of lies. Bitcoin can't live alongside fiat. Yet still, we push that over and over again. We can't just accept lies about what a company is or should be and actually be a Bitcoin company. We have some other stuff.
Oh yeah. We've got plenty.
And so it's funny, Michael Saylor retweeted this Buck token. It's kind of scary. He's really falling off. It's like, wow, all of this hyper financialization, Bitcoin they're really trying to force Bitcoin down the Bitcoin circle into the fiat square hole, right? Predator said, called out a lot of Bitcoiners shilling this. He took receipts. He took all kinds of pictures of people saying it's a great thing. This is not a stable coin. It's a sketchy tokenized strike offering issued on Ethereum. If I were to go to some other pages, if you guys zoom in a little bit, you'll be able to see the key notes on, this may be a white paper or some sort of summary for the Buck token, but the Buck token is a fungible. Say what?
It's built on ETH.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a
fungible crypto asset issued on the Ethereum blockchain, and the token is not backed by any assets or pegged to any currency. So it's not backed by Strike, and it's not pegged to a currency. It's a standalone layer 2 Ethereum token.
Don't forget.
Go ahead.
Don't forget, there's 3 shitcoin auditors, because I also did some story on this, right? So that they've got three auditors, right? Like the crypto auditors, 2 of which have audited, I believe it's 5 projects that rug pulled in the last 3 years. So that's not so good. It's just it's the typical stuff, man. It's smoke and mirrors, right? Like these guys are just going to issue tokens out of thin air, quote unquote, based on the amount of STRC that they hold. And you just got to trust them, bro, that they hold that STRC. You can't redeem any STRC because that's not how shares work, right? They are the shareholders if they are actually holding any STRC. We can assume they are holding some STRC because this is a product from the MSTR North bros, right? Those same guys that were shilling MSTR for the last 2 years. Yeah. Dan Hillary is the the head of their treasury. So right, that helps give it legitimacy, to the people who don't know any better. This is going to end so badly. It's anyways.
It's amazing how
it's such garbage.
When we talk about financial engineering, you would never think that the asset that's supposed to make money simple has made money so much more complicated than even the dollar. Like, you can't say that this is not complication for the sake of smoke and mirrors to shift buying power away from certain people for the sake of, sorry if you can hear a dog, for the sake of another group of people. And you're not dealing in Austrian economics anymore. You're dealing in this Keynesian garbage pile, and you just hope that you're in the know so you can make out before the next person. That's not the free market. That's not Austrian economics. That's not value for value. It's a pyramid scheme. And we keep on making them.
That's fiat. I mean, that's fiat culture, though. I mean, this is they actually talked about it in the in Bitcoin Today space a bit, where it's such a gambling culture. Oh my goodness! Like, now we're what is it? The you're betting on what's going to happen. The
Kalshi Poly market, the futures.
Yeah. What are they called?
Real world futures.
Yeah, but it's called something, right? It's
predictive markets.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely.
I'm old. So yeah.
There you go. Even better. Prediction markets. I said predictive markets.
Yeah.
Prediction
I heard
markets.
prediction markets, so that's all that matters.
Close enough.
Yeah, I mean, they're betting on everything. We're betting on everything. The younger generation, it's just like, oh my goodness, they see what's happening and they want to make money. And it's like, when you can bet on just an assumption, well, I think this is going to happen, and I'm going to put this, there's just you don't have to think too much about it. You're just like, yeah, why not? Give it a shot. Maybe I can make some easy money. So-and-so did, so that's the culture that we're in.
Fourth turning vibes. Right?
Say that about everything now.
Right? Because now that's it, because the money's worth garbage. So now people have to gamble in order to make an honest buck.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember when you couldn't even gamble online? Like, you couldn't do it, and in no time, look at where we are. How long ago was that? It wasn't that long ago.
Not that long ago.
No.
Not that long ago. Like, there was all kinds of there was parent groups and stuff like that. It was going to destroy everything. It was destroying the fabric of our, of society. Now all of a sudden it's remaking the fabric of society. Now all of a sudden it's like, you don't bet? What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
nonsense.
Yeah, moms, I see your comment. Brain fog.
Yeah, it's really sad because Bitcoin. At least you would think the Bitcoin network was supposed to be above all of this, and all that's happened is these Bitcoin influencers, Bitcoin culture, or people that validate certain projects. They're realizing that, hey, they're not getting popular fast enough. I mean, if you just look at an Anon crypto account on Twitter, you see them with 5-figure follows and 100 6-figure follows, and it's like, people who are in the influencer economy, they say they want some of that. They have, and how do they get that? They get that through these gaming schemes, through these project schemes, and making Bitcoin as close to a crypto scam as they possibly can. And that means financial engineering. You put on a suit and you make it and you pretend like it's legitimate instead of a crypto bro, instead of a heart in his Louis Vuitton velour suits. Guess what? You put on a suit and you look like you're from Wall Street. But guess what? You're not actually creating value. You're not making a company that's going to change the world. You're just making financial mechanisms so that you can take money from your stockholders before they can reap any sort of value, because there's no value to be reaped. It's really sad that the scammers dress up nice and pretty and they say all the right things, but we keep on following them to your own destruction while they make out. I mean, I've never seen so many people that have been validated for negative 98% returns. How many people should have jobs after losing, 90% market cap, 95% market cap? Yet still, this circle of people seems to like that kind of stuff.
I just want to say that based on that comment, that they're wearing an orange tie, everybody should be trusting what I'm saying today, not you guys, because I'm wearing orange and you guys aren't.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Trust me.
What about wear the right uniform?
You're not wearing it though.
What about the trust me mic cover?
Yep. That's nothing special.
It is just there.
It's just there. Okay, you're second trustworthy, and then Ulric, I don't even know what's going on with blue. That's so. Oh my gosh.
Second order of trust. You can't trust me directly.
Yeah.
You can trust me through a third party.
There you go. That makes sense these days.
There's something to be said with this Venezuela event that took place. And this guy, David, engineering MBA, is basically talking about how it proves the Bitcoin bull case. And this, without reading too much into this, this is a self-custody use case here. It's a self-custody of Bitcoin rather than stable coins. Of course, it's pretty confirmed. I thought this was kind of fuzzy, but it seems like it's pretty confirmed that Venezuelan oil transactions, a lot of it was using Tether or stable coins in general. And then the US made their phone call up to freeze Tether wallets. And then all of a sudden they can't make their transactions. So without reading this whole entire tweet, and we have some support slides as well, if you trust in stable coins, you're bowing down to the rules surrounding those stable coins. And so I have a little summary here. According to local economists, he said that Venezuela collects 80% of its crude oil sales revenue in Tether. But when you look at
his name,
no, I'm not going to say it.
Right over his name. I wanted to hear you say
Come on, chill out.
Drupal?
As Drupal? Yeah, that sounds better. Come on
okay.
now. I'm a green girl.
Maybe it's as Drupal.
Yeah, as Drupal.
Drupal. There's got to be a roll your R in there, right?
Yeah.
I ain't got time Russian. For this, man. Come on now.
For me.
Chill out.
Very important we get the name right, Ulric. Very important.
Story's over. Hey,
yep.
I could just leave right now, guys. Okay.
You weren't gonna get away with it. I'm sorry. I saw that name and I was waiting, and go ahead.
My name is Ulric Patillo. They get a lot of people. Hey, bro, what's up, man? They can't say I was like
you.
So I get it. I can't say that. I can't say people's names. They can't say mine.
All right.
Par for the course. So how does Tether freeze USDT? So Tether is on multiple blockchains: Ethereum, Tron, Solana, all utilize Tether. And so they have to kind of, without getting into like details, not that I would know them, but to summarize, they just can't react. They have to broadcast an announcement saying to all the different blockchains that we are freezing this wallet, that wallet. and they essentially blacklist them, which is preventing transfers to and from that designated address. And of course, so Tether freezes upon law enforcement requests, but sometimes they can be proactive, freezing to protect hacked users. So if users are hacked, they can essentially destroy coins and reissue them to the victim. So very, very, Tether isn't just, oh look, it's like electronic dollar. Like they run things. They can. It's programmable, and it's programmable to whomever makes the rules and whomever has the most incentives, who are basically the people in power. Now you have Circle as well, who doesn't have to go to multiple blockchains. They're more, what would you say, more adept, more quick to freeze or to impact their blockchain based on the call of a government, of laws, regulations, and court orders. But they have, I think the count was as little as 30 times less frozen assets than Tether. And if you start looking at, I believe there's a slide, I forgot what it was called, but there's like this website I was looking at, and now I can't remember. But if you look at this website, you can actually see how many addresses have been frozen and how much money has been frozen on these blockchains. So look, that's a long-winded explanation for me. I'm going to let you guys talk.
So just in summary, what is the primary difference between what the power that USDT has and USDC? What's the difference?
I would say that Circle would be would be able to act faster. However, Circle does not act proactively. Circle will kind of stay back and wait for the government to knock on their door. Tether will act proactively and interject in the blockchain, sort of like that famous rewrite when Ethereum did it once or twice back in the day. Tether will just go in and rewrite. They'll say, hey, those funds, they will burn funds and then reissue them to the people that they deem to be the proper owner. And of course, we know that hackers are bad, but the idea is that, guess what? If you are not necessarily a bad actor, but you just happen to be against the local rulers, they can knock on Tether's door and say, you know what, that's a bad actor, wink and nod. And all of a sudden Tether says, aye, Captain, and say, Phil Humble, you guys talk about Bitcoin too much. So what we're going to do, we're going to freeze your Tether, or we're going to destroy your Tether and reissue it back to its rightful owner, the United States government. They can not to say that that's going to happen anytime soon, but the idea is that use case is realistic. It's not realistic for Bitcoin. So the question is, Phil, why would Venezuela trade in Tether when they can just protect themselves and trade their oil in Bitcoin?
Well, supposedly, right, there's that guy, what's his name? Alex Saab, right? He is the lone controller of the Venezuelan Bitcoin. Maybe he just didn't want any of the Bitcoin moving around. And it was just, again, this idea that it's just easier for them to just use Tether in that respect, right? Because they actually want to hodl Bitcoin. If you believe that narrative.
Sure. It's Gresham's law, You could say.
But this whole thing, this whole thing with Tether, this goes back to Rourke's point, and we've touched on this several times before. Tether is just an excellent vehicle for the USD. So Tether is going to do right if being proactive puts them in a better light and affords them less scrutiny by the U.S. government and the regulators, then why would they have a problem with it? And they don't, right? Like that's a standard feature on the Tether blockchain. You have to be able to freeze funds, to be able to reverse transactions, to be able to blacklist addresses, stuff like that. That's all part. It's all part of it. So it's,
but paint themselves in a better light. The United States literally did do Black Ops 2006 and go take the president. It doesn't seem like their better light was working. It's like, why not just go full on Bitcoin if your president was going to get snatched up anyways? it's just like, who are people trying to appease if if the boss is going to come get you anyways? It's like,
I really wonder. I mean, this is the problem,
Maybe
right?
there are some connections between some people with the U.S., tether people and Venezuela. I mean, who knows?
I mean,
Cubans. I don't know. There's connections. There's a whole other world out there, right?
yeah, we're not. And sorry, going back to the BTC Moon guy's point here, I suspect the U.S. government already has he's talking about the Venezuelan Bitcoin. It's a good point, right? We haven't heard shit about the only guy that controls that Bitcoin. So it could be this, right? We're maybe not hearing anything about him because maybe to the US government, the Bitcoin that they have is just simply irrelevant. I know it's tough to hear, but the US government, I've explained this before, right? A government that's big enough and powerful enough, they don't really care. They can issue money. They have a military. Like it's not like, who cares?
That's right.
Right? Like, we care about Bitcoin. It's not the same thing for the government. So, maybe that's it. Or the other, which is the more hopeful point for a Bitcoiner would be that, to BTC Moon guy's point, they've already taken it and they're kind of just trying to hush this whole aspect of it under the carpet, and everybody can just focus on what the mainstream media is driving at, right? Talking about oil and, and essentially focusing on the fact that it was a black ops operation that went in, took him out, and we're being fed, supposedly, right? I don't know, because I really have no idea what the truth is, but supposedly we're being fed all kinds of what Trump did propaganda, right? Like supposedly a lot of these accounts that are claiming that they're happy to be quote unquote free, that it's a new beginning, all this stuff, supposedly this is for the most part fake. I have no idea. I have no dog in this race, I just...
Well, did you see H Works? Can you put H Works message up?
The
last one there.
This one? Yeah. Tether gives the USG and intelligence agencies eyes on where the currency is flowing. Absolutely.
Maybe that's why.
Yep. Right? Let that stuff go and see where it goes. And the other piece that I wanted to say was, I don't care which one censors most or censors, most often, or how they censor, right. This business of like separating the, attempting to separate, I guess, the wheat from the chaff when it comes to the different stable coins, right? This stable coin is better than this one. This one's not as terrible as this one. They're all garbage.
That's right.
They're all garbage in their own right. They're all garbage in their own way. They're all private blockchains that are simply meant to extend whatever local government is behind them, their dollar system. So whether the stable coin is a US stable coin, then boom, it's meant to propel the US economy. If it's a Chinese stable coin, it's meant to propel the Chinese economy. They're going to be buying the yen and yen backed assets and stuff. So it's all just shell games. It's all just shell games. They're just kicking the can down the road. Right? We know this. We know that this is inevitable. They're going to kick the can down the road. We all know what happens to fiat currencies. The question is when. The question is what happens next. And the question is, how does Bitcoin withstand that whole entire situation? We may end up getting to see this in our lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, what is the average life expectancy of a currency? What is that? Like how long does it last?
Well, the world reserve currency would probably be about an average of 120 years.
And we're at
100.
We're there. We're there. And I have pointed this out before. I think the Ottoman Empire is the one that managed to kick the can down the road the longest with 600 years. Okay.
Roman, I wouldn't say 200 years. I would say 200 years is how long these currencies last, but how long a currency has been a world reserve currency. They hold their position as the big dog for about 100 years. Since they've been allegedly tracking since about 1500, there have been 5 or 6 world reserve currencies.
And I don't know how many different currencies the Ottoman Empire went throughout that 600 years, right? Because, as we saw well, not we, because we're younger, but as people we read and people experienced in Weimar Germany, right? They did a whole lot of flip-flopping, right? They started with one currency, it ended up becoming another currency, it became another one. Like, so it was like, hey, how do we keep this thing going? So yeah, there we go.
Okay,
Roman?
AD 200. So what happens historically speaking in the last let's say 5 years of a currency dying? World, yeah.
Well, so I mean, we can go back to what happened in the last one, and I actually did a video on this at Swan,
Nice.
where I did I basically stepped through each of the last world reserve currencies, and I think I remember the British pound was pretty much the big dog until World War One, and I think it was just Europe was hit hard. USA didn't have to deal with that war that much, and so a lot of gold was shipped over to us to avoid all kinds of risk that was happening in that part of the world. And so and then 1913-ish time frame, World War One ended around 1918. We had our Federal Reserve. A lot of that stuff that happened in America kind of shifted the economic power, or a lot of stuff that happened in Europe and America kind of shifted that economic power to us. And so pretty much we became the big dog from most people's counts right after World War One. Some people would say that it happened after World War II, whatever, but I would pin it on World War One. So
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree. That's when the major shift, that's when it became
democracy.
Obvious. Like that's it. The world is shifting over, and it's the US that is going to. And interestingly enough, right, we're discussing this. It's actually kind of like a proverbial death sentence for a country, or we'll say an empire, to become the world reserve currency, because you can see the history of every single country that has become the world reserve currency, or that provides the world reserve currency, or provides liquidity, right? It all ends the same way. It all ends with overextension. It all ends with debt that cannot be paid back. Every single time.
And Roman was I mean, we've seen these charts where you have these like McDonald's arches, and they kind of interloop, and some people have even interposed Bitcoin as the next one. But the catch is, like, to answer Humble's question even more, they don't just fall off a cliff. The pound is still around, and it's still relevant. However, it's less relevant it's way less relevant compared to what the leading currency is. So if you think about it, all the world reserve currencies, we have the basket of goods, the basket of currencies, you have the USA at probably 58 to 55%. And of course, it's been trending downward over the last 25 years, but it's still, out of 55% is what everyone's holding dollars, and then everyone's holding a little bit of everything else, whether it's rubles, yuan, yen, pound, euro, and maybe euro's the second strongest. So guess what? If it's not a Bitcoin future, it becomes a euro future. Yeah, right. But let's just say it does. The USA will probably do a flip, and then the USA becomes like 26%, and the euro becomes 50%. And so now all trade leads to Europe. Europe leads the censorship and taking people off the European equivalent of SWIFT if they want. And so that's the kind of power that would happen. But guess what? The dollar would still be around, and it would still have its own trading routes, just like Russia has their own, or China.
So if because when I first came into the space, people would have conversations, because I was, of course, learning about world reserve currency and trying to understand everything. Definitely not something that I paid attention to in school. And quite honestly, I don't think they really talked about this in school. But anyways, if you were to explain what a world currency is, what it means to be a world reserve currency, because I'm assuming there will be people that will watch this and may want to know and understand, like, quite simply, what does that mean? How does one become, dominant in that? Because I know that I had heard, it's whoever has the strongest navy. That was one of the things that was thrown around when I first came into the space. So what do you guys think?
Go ahead, Phil.
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question.
Oh no, I'll answer.
okay.
I'll go. What's a world reserve currency? Again, I'm not an economist, but
Mhm.
a lot of the stuff that I mentioned before, who gets to dictate what countries get to play in trading games? So, everything that every major, think about this, the dollar is the world standard. So if you want to buy someone's goods in Cambodia, and you live in France, or you live in uh, Mexico. There you go. Cambodia, Mexico. Cambodia doesn't want your damn peso, and you don't, and Mexico doesn't want your Cambodian dollar or whatever they have. I think it's a Cambodian dollar. So what they do is say, hey, we may mostly have our own currency to do our stuff domestically, but when we want to bring in Cambodian rubber or whatever they would have over there, we're going to pay you in dollars, and you're going to pay us when you want our Mexican, goodness gracious, food. When we import Mexican food to Cambodia, you're going to pay us in dollars. And why? Because the dollar is good everywhere. The euro is not good everywhere. It's good a lot of places, but look, I go on trips to Europe. I'm okay with my Capital One venture credit card. Why? Because it's based in dollars and it's accepted everywhere. If you're from Russia, your ruble is just not good everywhere. And that's really the basis of it. And so who gets to own the trade lanes? Who gets to own the economic lanes of value exchange? And so therefore it would be natural. That's why Bitcoin is such a great use case, such a ideal form for the future as our world gets smaller. Who cares what country you're from? It's when they say Bitcoin is borderless, it's because guess what? If you're in California, it's like, yeah, and you're going to a Rams game, you can buy your tickets in Bitcoin or dollars, and it should be good. And if you're going to a Manchester United game in Manchester, you should be able to buy your tickets to that soccer game in Bitcoin or pounds. And it just makes sense. So it's a matter of how fast will people catch on, and how much does it cost to maintain these international government fiefs that people are obviously spending a lot of resources and a lot of bullets to hold on to. Once governments let go of that and say, hey, let's just take care of our own little domain and Bitcoin, all of a sudden Bitcoin skyrockets, and we have less grift in between our value exchange internationally. We still have problems buying things internationally because of currency. And, it's like, at some point, people are going to stop playing games, and Amazon's going to say, you know what, we're just going to do Bitcoin. Maybe it will hurt their lobbying efforts for a minute, but it's like, we're just going to do Bitcoin because it's easier and it's cheaper.
I see Robin's comment, Robin Banks, that we export inflation. And so, I mean, that's something that's, of course, getting into space and understanding the way things work too. If we're hurting here, think about how everyone else is feeling. It's so much worse.
That's part of the plight, right, of the reserve currency.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, right, nobody, the world doesn't really choose or at least that's the story that I read, right? Like the world, all these different countries, they don't really choose a reserve currency. A reserve currency emerges out of necessity, right? Like in terms of World War II, right? All the biggest countries after World War II were more or less decimated. And the only country that had the industry and the capability to lead the way at the time was the US, and then essentially began to take on the burden of reserve currency. Or you could also argue that at that point after World War II, it solidified the US as the holder of the world reserve currency. But of course, right, as we all know, that comes with with great powers comes great responsibility. And at that time, a lot of people believed that the U.S. would be, or at least, again, the framing that the U.S. would be fiscally responsible and wouldn't begin to inflate everything away. And obviously, as we know, Ulric, you're muted. Obviously, as we know, in 1971, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That pretty much let the world know that the U.S. was about to follow every single other empire that has failed before it.
It's pretty much Bretton Woods to the breaking of the gold standard. That the Bretton Woods agreement was like, we got this, trust me, bro. And then 25 years later, it's like, Nixon said, hey, we kind of need need your gold.
It was always going to happen. Okay. It was always going to happen. And the reason I say that, like, the reason why the US was unfortunately going to be no different is because humans haven't changed. They have not
evolved. They have not changed.
We're the same thing. So why would we expect different results if we are the same people making the same types of decisions based on the same intent?
This time it's different, Phil. I promise you. This time it's different.
Make it so, Ulric. Make it so.
But I mean, we see this. I mean, we see this with communism. Of course, now we can't blame the communists because this cronyism has forced people to take into all options and say that capitalism is bad because of the capitalism they're experiencing. But it just goes back to everything kind of lends itself to, if you have power, you're likely going to use it for nefarious means. And that's why if you can make a system that keeps you from having that ultimate power, people should run to that system. Guess what? We don't have a button where where once you push it, half of the world dies. Oh, shoot, nuclear weapons. Guess what? We don't want everyone to have that button. We want as few people to have that button as possible because it's likely that someone with nothing to lose will push that button. And it would be nice if no one could have that button. However, we're in that world. In the same vein, we would like it if no one had a button where you can just create money out of nowhere. However, look where we are. We have a button where every single country can just push a button and create money out of nowhere. And by the way, every bank in every country can just push a button and print money out of nowhere. But the people like you and me and the people on the stage, we can't just do that. And so we are the ones that are on the outside looking in. If all the people on the outside looking in said, we're going to go into that standard where no one can push a button and just make more money, we will thrive. The world will be a better place, even at the expense of the bankers and the politicians that are going to grind their teeth. However, they'll only grind their teeth for a moment. They're going to get used to the new norm, and we're all going to be better for it. But we have to make that jump, and I don't know how that's going to happen because all our Bitcoiners are really fiat people in disguise, and and all the governments and all the people who trust the governments say, hey, don't worry, don't just look the other way, or I'll hold your Bitcoin for you. It's going to be a bumpy ride, man.
Well, there's lots of distractions out there as well.
So many.
There has to be.
And Jim Cramer today, I mean, he said sovereign money is coming, so that puts us back like, I don't know, 5 years.
Good. That's 5 years. No, I'll take the under on that as always. Fernando Nicolic.
I appreciate this guy's takes. This guy always says.
Did I say that right? How do you say? What's the accent on the C?
What is the thing? Does it make it like Nicolis? Does it make it like an S?
Wait, Luka Doncic.
Or does it make it
Nicolis?
Does it make it CHE? Aha.
Okay.
Nobody knows.
Look, that's Fernando. Okay, Fernando said self-custody won't be the norm; it'll be the flex. And so when you think about it, all you people who are probably watching this video, I mean, we have a great contingency of people watching the Pleb Underground right now. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you like, share, retweet. Let all the people who are just stuck watching sloppy, dumb, irresponsible Bitcoin content, make sure you let them know that this kind of show kind of sets the record straight, keeps our feet on the ground, and keeps hope alive, real hope alive. But if you are watching this show right now, you probably have a general affirmation of self-custody. However, you're watching this show in 2026. If we're going through hyper-Bitcoinization, there will be a time when, guess what? Morgan Stanley is going to have their clause in it. BlackRock will be a vet. They'll be an OG like you. And they'll probably have a lot of people that are coming to them in 2035 and 2036 and saying, hey, I want some Bitcoin. Well, that they will be the norm. And so I think what Fernando's trying to say is it's not going to, everyone's not going to be able to self-custody in this bright orange future. And so for those who are, make sure you value that. Make sure you understand that you're in a place in time when self-custody is relatively easy. And it's you can do it. You can teach other people to do it. And by the time self-custody goes away for the commoner, for the person who's late to the game, when Bitcoin's $1 million, $2 million, it will be like, yeah, I'm like an OG here.
Yeah, exactly.
I was here before all this stupid, third, fourth layer came into existence. Humble, what are your thoughts?
And that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, while you were saying this, and I'm reading it over and over again, I'm like, oh, does that mean that I'd be like an OG? I'd like be able to, like, I'm an OG. Yeah, I'm an OG. Look at me.
When you think about it right
Yeah.
now, with all this Bitcoin financial engineering, this strike and this MicroStrategy and Buck, Humble, you're an OG. I'm sorry.
For real. Like, it's awesome. No, I totally
No
agree
cap.
with that. It is. Yeah, I know. Got to throw that in there for the people in 2035 that are looking back at this and watching. Yeah. So that's it's pretty cool. It's very true. I mean, you see it going away now. I mean, you see just kind of if we speak of it as a community, we used to have spaces all the time on what was then Twitter, now X, teaching people how to self-custody. And there still are people that do these spaces. I know that Wicked Bitcoin, he does those spaces still frequently, and it's titled as such, self-custody Q&A. But we did it all the time, but this is when different devices were devices were coming up, and now there's a stable few that are out there that I think are pretty well vetted by people. And maybe people just don't need as much help, but I find that kind of hard to believe too. I just feel like people have taken the easy way, and they're like, just buy the ETF. Just do that. I can say I have Bitcoin. It's not a big deal. Or they're keeping it on the exchanges because they feel that it's okay. There's nothing crazy that's happened. FTX seems like forever ago, right?
Phil, do you think that that's the future, that Bitcoin will just be in your B of A app right next to your dollars, and that's kind of the be all end all for 80%, 90% of people? Or do you think there will be a wave of true? So I mean, I think right now Bitcoiners are still in Coinbase. Like, they call themselves Bitcoiners, but they're still on Coinbase and Kraken. What do you think?
Yeah, to Fernando's point, right? Like growing your own food, technically possible and philosophically pure. Cool, but practically irrelevant for 95% of adoption. So yeah, I do believe a large amount of the population is going to just leave it on exchanges. It's going to sit there in their, your app, right? Your Bank of America app or whatever, whatever banking app you're using. It kind of reminds me in a way of, which again, it's probably a terrible analogy, but for financial circus. Financial circuses, for financial circles, they might appreciate it a little bit more. But it's the difference between a person who wants to invest in individual companies, right? They want to do the research, they want to learn about the companies, they want to buy individual shares, right? They want to be able to vote for the different board, right? The members of the board, right? You want to get involved, right? You want to get as close to the ground as you possibly can, versus the person who just throws money into, to an advisor, right?
An index fund,
the advisor places it, or, they're just buying, to your point, index funds or something like that through their company, where again, there is a layer removed from them getting close to the ground. So again, to me, like that goes back to this point here. I can see it already, right? Like, I can see it from the years that have changed. To Humble's point, we were having conversations about self-custody. This was like a daily thing, right? To the point where people were getting sick of it. Now you almost hunger for it. Now it's like, you'll see I'll see a wicked space and I'm like disappointed that I'm doing something else. And I'm like, fuck, you know what? I really wanted to sit in on that and talk about this, or at the very least, listen about it, because now they're happening, they're fewer and far between. And I believe that just goes back to the point of that there's a lot of people that they just see that, hey, if I hold IBIT, or I hold, this other thing that isn't Bitcoin, but that just simply gives me exposure to not even NGU in its purest form. Let's be honest. If you want access to Bitcoin's NGU, you need to hold Bitcoin in self custody. Anything else, right? Anything else, you're buying any shares of anything. I don't care what, you are just getting access to a derivative product that represents NGU. So again, you're being removed. But to Fernando's point, it's going to be irrelevant for 95% of adoption. I can't disagree with that. Look around you. Just look around you. Nobody wants to do the work.
No.
The human condition in general is lazy. Okay? People don't want to admit that, but it is. And if you look at a lot of the innovation that we have, we are willing to innovate so that we could be lazier. Okay.
And of course, there's gradients of lazy. Like some people go to the gym 3 times a week. Some people go to the gym 7 times a week. And there's, I can't say that one person. It's not black and white, right? Like some people self-custody, but maybe they don't. Look, I don't have a Lightning node, right? Should I have a Lightning node?
No, straight to jail.
Yeah, I haven't gotten time to go. Say that again, Phil.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. See, so it's like, and some people would say that. I'm sure if I talk to Darth Coin, he'd probably say straight to jail. But the catch is like, we have to find some sort of what. I guess we don't have to find it. What do you think is Phil, the happy medium, or that line in the sand where it's like, yeah, you're doing enough to be on the side where, as Mom's Hodl said, self-custody and P2P to win? Or is that all that you need? You just need to make sure you self-custody and be able to exchange your Bitcoin peer-to-peer with someone, and that's pretty much the foundation. If you can cross that threshold, you're a Bitcoiner. Everything else is better, but anything below is like, you got some work to do.
I mean, look, again, so now we're going to dive into people's purity tests, right? Like, this is like, and I've said this before, right? Everybody is failing somebody else's purity test. It's just the way it works. Okay. So all a person has to do is simply just find the happy medium for themselves where they are not going to wreck themselves, but it is also difficult enough that an attacker can't wreck them easily. Right. And every person has a different threshold for any of that. Like, there's some people. Okay. For example, right. I wouldn't suggest to my father to do self-custody. Right. And I didn't. I told him, he's one of those people. I was like, you should just leave your Bitcoin on the exchange. Like, that's because I know that for self-custody for him means self-custody for me. That means I am now taking on the responsibility of self-custody for him. So look, there's some.
And by the way, before you continue, I got to answer my friends. Remember, Rafael, this is where I talked to you about the option of like Phil said, taking it off of the exchange. So what does that mean? That means putting it basically in a cold part of the internet where only you can access it through cryptographic signing measures. So we'll talk about that later, but we've talked about it before. We'll talk about it again soon. Sorry, Phil.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, actually, just wanted while you were talking about that, I noticed the comment right below. I'm as lazy as one can be, but I hold my keys. There you go. That's, you know what? That's fantastic. So right there, that gives me hope, because when you recognize the importance of Bitcoin, and maybe, look, in fairness, it really helps when you've gotten wrecked. Now, granted, I think maybe it was a lot easier to get wrecked way back in the day because you could buy back a whole lot of Bitcoin a lot sooner. But today, it's probably a different story. So learning that lesson about being wrecked, I think maybe could have been easier several years ago. But it was a lesson that at least for me, it stuck with me. Right?
Do you think
Like,
that people are going to be wrecked now? Like, and let's just say, we talk about self-custody is the way to win, but however, let's just say that there are 8 significant banks that we can name off the top of our head, and all these banks are giving Bitcoin services. Is it safe to say that, and we're talking about the United States, we're not talking about Russia or even Europe, is it safe to say that these banks can withstand, the drama around fiat, and they would be the last one standing? And so therefore, if you have your Bitcoin on these services, you should be relatively safe. And this is just an honest question that some people could be asking, even me to a degree. What are your thoughts on that, Phil?
Yeah. I mean, look, so it's
Morgan
not that
Stanley, JP Morgan, those types.
I mean, so look, this is the problem, right? Of course, they're relatively safe until they aren't, right?
That's
Like,
right.
and this goes back to something that Moms is talking about over here. When the banks hold your Bitcoin and freeze your account for some random shit, self-custody will become important. And it's true. And that's the issue
right.
with it, right? I personally, it never dawned on me that the bank would freeze my accounts because, and again, this is completely maybe, ignorant on my part. I'm not a criminal. So for me, I was like, they have no reason to freeze my accounts. And yet I found myself at the age of, I think it was like 21 or 22, completely locked out of my accounts and viewed from the bank as a criminal because my employer bounced a month's worth of paychecks because of they weren't paying the payroll company. Anyways, it was a whole big nightmare. But guess what? To the bank, I am the criminal because I am the one cashing quote unquote fraudulent checks or checks that don't cover. So it all works until it doesn't, right?
Sure.
Like, and the problem is that you only end up learning this lesson when shit hits the fan. That's the issue. Like, you're going to learn that lesson at the worst of times, not when like things are like totally smooth and it's like, oh, they've debanked me, but that's okay. That's
And they haven't
Coinbase
stopped.
never freezes their accounts when everything's smooth. They're only freezing it when we're in a tailspin going 90 degrees downward, right? Humble, you were saying something?
No, I just had 2 things. So one, I mean, banks have not stopped debanking people. So this actually happened last week live in a space. It was actually during the Bitcoin Today space. Somebody was informed that JP Morgan debanked them, and he had absolutely no idea why this would have occurred. The only thing he could possibly think of is the fact that he holds these spaces, it's a daily thing. And, maybe there are some things said in there that they don't like about Bitcoin or what have you. But this is an anonymous person. So for them to go through the trouble of finding out who this person is, if this is indeed why, right? But yeah, no, I mean, just didn't give him a reason. It's crazy. So it's still happening. The other thing I was thinking about, if you want to pull that tweet back up again, I'm so sorry.
We just like to see our faces a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that again in a second. Sure.
Forth, it's about switching back and forth.
Yeah, sure. Different views, perspectives.
Right.
Self-custody won't be the norm. Yeah, I think the other part of this is the fact that we are going to endure just so many attacks on self-custody. So it's like, not only is there a lack of interest now, we are going to continue to endure more attacks on self-custody, whether that's government saying, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, or, oh, look, the signing device isn't secure and none of these are secure. Look at what happened here. Like all these different things to try to prevent people from doing that, because they ultimately do not want you to do that. They are not going to want you to do that. That's why we have all of these, ETFs and all that. So I think having it be a flex is because if you're somebody who still has your Bitcoin on a signing device after going through these different threats and the different narratives that will be coming out, then you definitely deserve that OG title for real.
We are all OGs here for real. Phil,
Yeah.
I'm not an OG because
Phil,
I
let me have my moment. I want to be.
No, you can have your moment, but I'm not an OG.
Phil, bring us home.
Click on it.
I can't do it. Yeah, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of Bitcoin Tonight, episode 6. Guys, we are going to be back next Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time for more drama, more fun. And guys, don't forget, tomorrow, 12:10 p.m. Eastern, I'm doing the news. We've already got a whole lot to cover. There's a whole lot more hopium and a whole lot more copium. Have a great night, and catch you guys all soon.